Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy, for nerds, by nerds, hang out with all these nerds.
Nathan Nerdark.
Nerdarchy Ryan.
Nerdark is dead.
And is inciting the GMs in your life?
If you want to jump down the description below, you can sign up for Nerdarchy, the newsletter. It's a great way to get gaming tips, as well as learn how to game with us.
So there's just certain skills in the game that kind of break things down for you, and not always in a good way. Insight can be
Or
that
more
one.
so, bring the game to an ass-grinding halt.
Or ruin the story.
Yeah.
You know, for everybody involved.
Yeah.
Because, and it happens a lot, like, players will unintentionally try and win D&D, essentially, is what it comes down to.
Intentionally.
Through a
actually.
die roll. Yeah.
By the point in time you've decided to make these auto-win dice rolls, that's trying to win at D&D intentionally.
So this has come up before, and one of the solutions is, for certain things, is to not let the players dictate when they're going to roll the dice.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you as the GM, and I'm pretty sure I've said this at different tables at various times,
Is you roll this dice, I will fucking murder you.
well, that's one of I've probably said that, but I've also probably said, I'll let you know when to roll.
Yeah, otherwise you
The
got
more
people-
diplomatic version of that.
There are a number of times that it happened at the table, and there's a number of skills that when you say, oh, you can make this check, everybody wants to leap on it, or
It becomes an echo chamber of dice rolling.
Yeah.
or can I make a such and such check? And everybody's like, and everybody grabs their dice, and everybody wants to do it. And it doesn't make sense.
Statistically, if you have 7 people rolling a d20, somebody's going to roll an absurdly high number, and oh look, you succeed. Right. Yeah, so there's no challenge.
For some reason, statistically speaking as well, it's always the person that shouldn't be able to do it as well. So, but with insight, I feel like there is a little bit of wiggle room. Like, instead of saying the person's lying, or instead of saying you believe them, you could always describe their demeanor instead. You know, like the person seems nervous, or the person
Fidgety,
seems worried, scared. You know, whatever the mood is, instead of blatantly just saying, "Oh, he's clearly lying."
Like, look up tells for like poker players or something like that, and then like take some of those things. Oh, he's like playing with his ear or something like that. Like,
There's a couple things here. Number one, insight, in my opinion, and I could be wrong, really takes time to actually get any information. The first time you start talking to someone, if they have something that might be obvious, you can go with it. But unless there's something that's clearly there, you've got nothing to insight off of. You've never had an interaction with them before. You don't know what any of those tells might actually be. So there's no real point.
you know what? I watched an interesting, along this line that you're getting to, like, I watched an interesting video, like, about, it was like a business thing of how to figure out how someone's lying. And what you do is you kind of, like, stalk the person a little bit, and you find out the answers to things that they're likely to tell the truth on to form a baseline, but then you try to dig a little deeper and find some shit that they would probably lie about. And this way you find the baseline in which they would lie. So that means that you've just had to do a bunch of research to find out whether, like, so that basically it's kind of DC's to figure out if somebody's lying to you that you have no past history with. It's pretty hard because they just might be an anxious person. So that's kind of a thing about that.
There's also little tricks, like let's say if you're trying to steal money from somebody, like use an insight in the other way. Somebody hides their money pouch a particular place. Well, if you say, "Oh, excuse me, sir," like get them off guard. "Excuse me, sir, did you drop this money pouch?" Sometimes people will reactionarily touch wherever it is, even if it's a hidden place, and you're like, "Oh, okay, there it is." So that
say they wear it around their neck and like
it's like, "Oh no, that's not mine." Well, I mean, they hid their money purse, but they just showed you where it was.
Yeah.
So it's kind of that's a different way, I guess, of using it, or that's like a different tell. Like you're tricking them into revealing something, and that can be done just because you know human nature, and that's more of like a wisdom.
Which makes me beg the question of how many people is Nate mugging is actually what I want to know.
But
I just read a lot of books. I don't know.
Yeah.
For instance, in regards to what I'm talking about, I watched a movie, and for the life of me, I can't think of the name of the movie, but the guy says, like, all right, I'm going to play cards, and I guarantee you I'm going to lose for the first hour. And he takes that hour to learn everyone's tells because he's not going to win. He's throwing his money on the table just to pick up everybody at the table, and he winds up sweeping them.
Which all of this boils down to one really important factor. First of all, it takes time to use the skill, like you said. Second of all, insight is not read thoughts. There's a reason why there's a spell for that. You're going to have to, you may garner more information with a good insight check, but you still have to interpret that information and figure out what it means. And also, as the GM, it's totally all right to say, how are you doing something?
And I would like to add, too, for lack of experience, like, you could almost apply the disadvantage penalty, like making the DC 5 harder. If you don't know this person from Adam, like, how are you supposed to know when they are lying to you, again, without having any prior knowledge of them?
Maybe they just have a nervous twitch.
Yeah, they might. Yeah.
So as you were saying, give them some information. So if the person is nervous, have times where they're telling the truth, but they're nervous because of something else happening in their life that has nothing to do with this conversation that they're anxious about or nervous about. Perhaps the guy's getting married tomorrow. Perhaps someone's holding his daughter hostage and he's got to deal with this situation so that he can get back and go deal with the problems in his own life.
And these are things that could come out during the role playing too, like, and be like, then that becomes these little red herrings that the players have to kind of like decipher and weed their way through, because you're actually giving them reasons why he's nervous, or why a normal person would be nervous. So then you can thread truths and half-truths and lies throughout the whole conversation if that's what you need to do.
Basically, 2 truths and a lie sort of situation.
Yeah.
And the other side of this coin is that if you feel your players are rolling the dice too much, I know some DMs would say, you know what, I'm taking the power. When there's a chance that insight might reveal something for you, I'm going to roll it. I'll take all your modifiers, and I'll let you know what winds up coming across in a conversation, and it'll stop the needless dice rolling that's going to happen at the table.
Or you could institute just using a passive stat, like you have a passive perception. Like, insight is one of those things that does, it just makes a lot of sense that you would have a passive sort of lie detector in your head of like why.
Well, in theory too, there's also a passive investigate, although it's only mentioned in like one spot in the book.
1 feet, yeah.
But yeah, you could absolutely do that. And again, it should go back to, before you can drop any insight checks, you have to do a little role playing first in order to get a baseline, like you said, because you don't know this person. How are you? Because a lot of times it almost seems like the DM will speak, or narrate from the person's perspective, and then players automatically just want to drop the insight check, and they haven't even interacted back with that NPC yet. So you require a little bit of back and forth before they can even think about making an insight check.
Yeah. So once you start dropping dice, the making insight checks for player characters. So it's like if the players see their own result, they know there's certain insight, perception, investigation, and stealth are like kind of 4 bullshit things for people knowing how they did it, because you don't know that you're not being stealthy and people completely see the outline of you when you're doing a stealth check. So as GM, you can make the rolls for them then and there, or maybe you pre-roll 20, 30 D20 rolls and just use those dice results in order. So this way they're all pre-generated. You did legitimately roll them. You just didn't roll them at the table in that moment.
Yeah, we've used that solution for other things as well, and it definitely works. So with that, you guys head down the description below, or not the description below, the comments below. Let us know how you handle insight in your game. While you're at it, like, share, and subscribe.
You can find all our social media links down below.
So until next time,
stay nerdy.